In tonight's Not Tonight, just 3 weeks after the general election, a showdown between Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. After almost 30 years, there may be an end in sight to the conflict in a galaxy far, far away. And at his 5th birthday party, Leo Blair is asked what he thought of George Bush's present. I'm John Sargent. This is Not Tonight. Our top story, those pictures of Saddam Hussein in his underwear. Should they have been published? The Sun's decision marks a radical departure from its traditional page 3 policy. Thousands of readers feel that luring naive, murderous former dictators into appearing topless is both offensive and degrading. While many would regard this as blatant propaganda, Abbie Titmuss would see it as a career path. But one bright spot. The now notorious wife fronts are of such dazzling, pristine whiteness, they put even Tony Blair's conscience to shame. How has this happened? The Sun makes clear. So Mr. Blair was right. Saddam does have biological washing powder. The Prime Minister's latest health problems have sparked renewed speculation about when he might step down. He's been spending the weekend at Chequers after treatment for a back problem, and well-wishers all over the world have been sending messages of support. President Bush has been saddened to learn that Mr. Blair has been having problems with his spine, and he's surprised to hear that he's got one. So when might he step down in favour of the Chancellor? Alex Lowe has the story.
Let's go back to 1994, just after the death of the previous Labour leader, John Smith. Now, as you can see, Tony Blair makes a sudden, extraordinary impact. If you compare that to Gordon Brown, you can see that in terms of popularity, Blair is well ahead at this point. So how did we get from then to now, with Blair's approval rating at an all-time low? Let's look back at the history of the relationship. Now, if we separate out these two values and see how much power this gives them, represented here as mighty, indestructible robots. It's now more than 10 years since the so-called Granita deal was struck. That saw Gordon Brown crown Tony Blair leader in exchange for a promise of a handover during Blair's second term. The stage was set for Blair's landslide election victory in 1997. But pretty soon after the election, it became clear that wasn't going to happen. To remind Blair of the deal they'd struck, Brown collaborated on a book that claimed that he was the better man. So Blair's people put it about that Brown was psychologically flawed and that the Chancellor had been slapped down by the PM. Over the next couple of years, the PM and his deputy circled each other warily, trading rabbit punches. At this stage in the battle of the new Labour titans, honours appear to be even. Until Blair played his joker, calling an election campaign and winning a second enormous majority. Then came the war on terror, which kept Blair busy. But Brown sniffed his opportunity and by 2003 had secured a promise from Blair that he would step aside in autumn the next year. But he doesn't. An increasingly desperate Prime Minister announces he would serve a full third term, and the relationship hits rock bottom. 2005 now, and an election looming. Resorting to a new approach, the Chancellor tries sulking, a tactic which shows better results. With Blair's popularity at an all-time low, Brown refuses to get involved with the election campaign at all until the last moment, when a deal is finally struck. The two join forces once more to defeat their common enemy. So that's where we are right now. Based on that relationship, let's see what the future holds. There we are. It now seems only a matter of time before the Iron Chancellor delivers the knockout blow. There it is then. So, the robots are saying Brown for PM by the end of the year. Alex Lowe, Not Tonight.
Now, joining me is our chief political correspondent, Jeremy Hardy. It looks to me, Jeremy, as if all the main parties lost the election.
That's right, John. All the politicians off the record have made it very clear to me the voters got it wrong. The Tories are turning in on themselves. The modernisers, by which I mean those Tories who walk upright and live on land, were very unhappy about Howard's focus on immigration. Interestingly, the vote of the British National Party actually went up at the election, which shows that although Howard wasn't able to capture the racist vote, he was able to increase it. On the right wing of the Tory party, there are many who would like Howard to have taken an even harder line on immigration, but that would have meant deporting himself, making himself ineligible as a parliamentary candidate.
Right, but now the election is over, the government are quite prepared and ready to implement the Conservative manifesto.
Indeed, yes. This is very clear from the Queen's speech. Immigration right at the forefront. There is a new immigration and asylum bill which has a point system for applications. Now, for example, if you can establish evidence that you've been tortured, you get a certain number of points. If it's only a few savage beatings, you'll need IT skills as well. If you're conversant with Macs and PCs, then, you know, minimal scarring might be enough to show. But if you've lost an eye, a basic secretarial qualification will probably do you. All this is very much in the climate of the so-called war on terror, with the government bringing in lots and lots of bills, some of them aimed at specific individuals. And later in the session, we'll expect to see Charles Clarke pushing through his criminal lack of evidence, but I've got a feeling in my water about this one, Sarge Bill.
Now, David Blunkett's done well. He's back in the government and he's solved his own problems about work and pensions, not forgetting childcare.
Absolutely. Blunkett right back in the spotlight there with the incapacity benefit, and we can expect him to be as harsh on the disabled as he was on refugees. The interesting thing about Blunkett is that, given what we know about his private life, there was never a time when he was noticeably more cheerful because he was getting his jollies. One would have expected a golden age with civil rights cascading from the Home Office and asylum seekers welcomed with open arms and a big smile on the dog's face. But one interesting bill is the one that grants more access to absent fathers. And, of course, Blunkett himself was trying to get more access to the older of Kimberly Quinn's children, which is biologically his. I think that his return to Cabinet was eased by the fact that the second child isn't his. On the other hand, it could have been more or less anybody's. I mean, this is a woman whose idea of assisted conception is to and was possible. But it does tell us something interesting about what we mean when we say a father. What do we mean by being a father? In the case of Kimberly Quinn, very much a question of whose sperm got there first. Really, just reducing fatherhood to a game of poo sticks.
Jeremy Hardy, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, John.
It's a rather sad fact that bad language, whether on the television or on the streets, seems to have become so commonplace. It's considered almost acceptable. But listen to this.
Why are you coming ring this for? What are you saying that for? That ain't one more I'll smash your right faces. Do you understand? Yes.
Now, contrary to what you may think, that is not an off-the-record conversation with the Deputy Prime Minister, but in fact a police officer having a quick word in the ear of a Kurdish teenager on the streets of London. During the confrontation, the officer allegedly swore 18 times in 2.5 minutes. And thanks to the voice recording facility on his mobile phone, the quick-thinking youngster was able to capture the moment forever. With more, here's our personal electronics expert, Catherine Jakeways. Catherine, I didn't realise that you could record on a mobile phone.
Well, John, you're not alone, but in fact, many phones today offer voice storage, an answering machine and voice memo functionality. In fact, the Nokia 6260 includes not just a voice recorder, but email capability. So if you're being abused by an officer, you can save the tirade and email it to your solicitor or the media. It also features a side-mounted camera to record video so you can capture your own beating. The Samsung D500 includes a voice recorder, a digital camera with flash for night beatings, and at just 99 grams, it's so light you won't feel a thing if an officer hits you with it. Meanwhile, this one comes with video record, but has only 5 megabytes of internal memory, so you'll want to keep the beatings down to about 3 minutes. However, the V620 does include quad band that lets you roam globally, allowing you to be abused from London to Los Angeles. On the high end, the Sony Ericsson P910i goes one step further, offering global roaming and, as it's really a mini computer, the ability to download translation software. So if a French gendarme threatens to fracas votre visage arabe dedans, you'll know that they want to smash your face in. And in fact, it can even say, I'm going to smash your Arab face in Arabic. So that's brilliant.
It's now breaking news. We're first with this item, and we're going straight to the scene, and our correspondent is David Mills. First, congratulations, David. Can you confirm that you are the only national news reporter on the scene?
Yes, John, thank you very much. I can confirm that. I am indeed the only person here from any news organisation in the entire world. It's a complete exclusive.
Right now, David, how did it happen? How did it develop? What can be done? It's been a rather strange turn of events, hasn't it, David?
Well, it certainly has, John, and there haven't been any significant developments since I arrived here just a few moments ago. I think...
Do you think anyone could have predicted this outcome?
Absolutely not, John. Certainly not me. I couldn't have predicted that. I think we just have to hunker down and sit tight and see how this whole situation unfolds. Back to you in the studio, John. Back to you.
No, before we leave you, David, in the light of what's happened there today, can you see any way back to, well, where we were this time yesterday morning?
No, John.
Right. Thank you, David. We will come back to you later in the programme when I'll be asking you what's happened, what's been said, and what this all means.
Really? I don't think there's going to be much happening here tonight, John.
Well, we'll come back to you later in the programme.
Right.
When we come back, more from David Mills on that late-breaking story. Will Smith with an exclusive report from the galactic capital. Paul Thorne has the fallout from the FA Cup final. And Alex Lowe plays with George Bush's presence at Leo's birthday party. We'll be back with all that and much more. Welcome back to Not Tonight with me, John Sargent. And I'm glad to inform you that during the break, the news just kept on happening. So that's a bit of luck. We go back now to David Mills at the breaking news scene. Well, David, what's happening there right now?
Well, John, since we spoke not 5 minutes ago, very little development. I can only presume that things are progressing much slower than any of us could have anticipated.
There have been suggestions that the government will be making a statement on the matter tonight. What do you think the significant points are likely to be in that statement, David?
The government. Yes. Well, yes. Well, obviously, John, I'd imagine clearly they'd want to have some sort of statement on that. But as you can see behind me, there's very little activity, and I can't really see that changing.
So just remind me, David, what is that building behind you?
This one here. I don't know, John. I don't know.
That's David Mills reporting from the breaking news scene. This weekend, the Prime Minister's youngest son, Leo, celebrated his 5th birthday with a big party for his many young friends. The celebrations also marked a significant milestone for New Labour, as it's the first time in 8 years they've been able to use the words huge turnout for Blair's party.
30 years since Tony Blair first discovered he'd got rhythm. But it's 5 years since he and Cherie lost it. 9 months later, Leo was the result. During his next 5 years, Leo has been rarely seen in public, and the Blairs have gone to great lengths to protect his privacy. This was their Christmas card in 2001. And Tony Blair was reportedly furious when Jacques Chirac showed a framed photo of Leo to the press. Not Tonight has obtained the original. But as he reaches 5, Downing Street has decided to mark this milestone by allowing me exclusive access to Leo Blair's Downing Street birthday party. Since the actual birthday last Friday, Downing Street has seen plenty of comings and goings.
A big monkey, please.
The Cabinet arrived one by one to see Leo, and although the number of presents was well down on last year, he told me he was pretty pleased with the outcome.
Mr. Brown gave me £5 to be phased in over my next 4 birthdays.
Did you get anything else?
Daddy promised to give me a new bike, but once again he failed to deliver.
Well, that was kind.
Charles Clark gave me an Asbo.
Oh, that's nice.
And Mr. Prescott took my cake.
That wasn't very nice. But as always, the children were looking forward to the party games. 98! Older brother Ewan was unbeatable at sleeping lions. Whilst the Pass the Parcel prize left the birthday boy looking disappointed. And there were tears later on when a game of musical chairs resulted in some of Leo's friends unexpectedly losing their seats. As a result, Leo used the party to complete a long overdue reshuffle of his friends. In comes little John Brown from next door and as many of his friends as he wants to bring. Out goes Nicky Rainsford for being boring and silly. Back in comes little Willie Blunkett after some time on the naughty step. In comes Lord Adonis because he looks funny. And staying in is that fat kid from down the road with the 2 pushchairs. Already the changes are proving controversial.
I think Leo's being very naughty. I think it's a very positive reshuffle.
Others refuse to comment. So, as the country comes to terms with the realities of 5 years of Blair, everyone has finally realised the party might be over. This is Alex Lowe, Not Tonight. I don't think that Mr. Prescott meant to hit you, but you mustn't throw things at him.
Now let's move on to our financial report, designed in a way that has gripped the nation. For the first time in Britain, the market Sudoku.
Now, let's take a quick look at the week's big winners on the London Stock Exchange. We'll start with Barclays, up 20 to 567. Carpetright up 39 to 871. MFI Furniture was at 123, that's up 15. And Investec gained 160 to finish at 1742. British Telecom was up 35 to 255, but that won't work with 2 5s in the same row. So let's say they're up 33 at 253. Mitchells and Butlers up 60 to 376. Marks and Spencer up 41 to 369. Actually, no, there's already a 3 in that column. So let's say Marks and Spencer lost 200 to 169. That's better. Sainsbury finished up, but we're not going to tell you how much. Don't want to make it too easy. And finally, Hambledon Mining up 1.5 to 8, so not much help there. So there we have it. Good luck. Email us your answers. And quickly, here's a glance at last night's financial markets, won by Catherine Templeton of Stoke-on-Trent.
Foreign news now, and it looks like a violent conflict that has been raging for 28 years might shortly be coming to an end. Not Tonight has the only journalist embedded with the triumphant imperial forces, and he brings us this exclusive report.
A republic that has lasted 1,000 generations came to a swift and brutal end this week as a new emperor's troops overthrew those loyal to democracy. The takeover, which occurred here in a galaxy far, far away on Thursday, is not expected to affect Earth. In the skies above the Republic's capital, Imperial fighters have been flying thousands of sorties, carrying out forensic strikes against known Republican targets. Those loyal to the Republic have already gone into hiding, but according to an official statement issued by their 900-year-old leader, return, they say they will. The new emperor is the former Republican Chancellor Palpatine, and earlier today he granted me an exclusive interview in which I asked him about the nature of power.
All who gain power are afraid to lose it.
We have a prime minister like that, although his reduced majority will mean he'll have to compromise more. Likewise, shouldn't you be sharing power with the 2 main religious factions?
The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way.
That's good.
Good as a point of view.
Get your hand off my knee. For the past 9 months, I've been embedded with the Imperial fleet on this Star Destroyer, living and working side by side with the men who are risking their lives to bring about regime change. I asked them what they thought of their new Emperor.
Unlike some of the guys, I don't think he was lying. I think he believed what he told us at the time. Yeah, he's a regular kind of a guy.
Now, you were guards at the infamous detention centre on Abu Dagaba. What do you think of the publication of those photographs?
We were just having a laugh, really. It was just high spirits.
Sounds more than high spirits to me.
Those brown cloaks had it coming. You reporters are all the same. We were just obeying orders. Who the hell are you anyway? Have you got any identification?
You don't need to see my identification. I'm not the reporter you're looking for.
He's not the reporter we're looking for.
Move along.
Let's move along. What say we get some donuts?
With the fall of the Jedi, this conflict has entered a new phase. Reconstruction, redevelopment, and enslavement are the priorities now. But after 28 long years of waiting for this appalling conflict to finish, it does at least seem that an end is now finally in sight. This is Will Smith on the Imperial Star Destroyer, Not Tonight.
Now for the item which has proved over the years to be the most effective way to reduce the size of the audience. The news in your area.
Good evening. This is the news in Wales with me, Barry Welsh. A proposal to introduce one-man buses in Rhyl has been rejected after complaints by local people that as soon as the driver got on the bus, it'd be full. A light aircraft which crashed into a farmyard, killing a pig, was caused by a catalogue of errors, according to air accident investigators. They added that the catalogue shouldn't have been in the cockpit and the pilot shouldn't have been reading it. This is the week that the Welsh Assembly announced its 10-year plan for the NHS in Wales, but there was no mention of a new development which may make conventional treatment a thing of the past. Our health correspondent, me, has the story. Something we hear a lot about in relation to the provision of healthcare is patient choice. Should my mother have her hip operation done at a top-rated medical school, or should she go to a local hospital where she'll probably die? In Wales, making that decision is even more difficult, because here, at the Institute for Bilingual Medicine, patients also have the choice of being treated in English or in Welsh. And it makes a difference. This week, the Institute's been in the headlines because a woman from Abertillery was told that she'd make a complete recovery in Welsh, but in English, she'd be dead in a month. The man who made that diagnosis is Dr. Llantysiliog Gogogoch. Dr. Gogogoch, a complete recovery, but only in Welsh. Surely that's impossible.
It is impossible.
So how do you account for it?
Well, to put it simply, we believe that when the germs hear the Welsh being spoken, they die.
The Welsh language actually kills germs. How does it do that?
Well, to put it simply, we believe that Welsh is a more pure language than English. It has no artificial additives, if you like. The English is full of things from other countries, like America. Yo, bitch, slap up my hoe, that type of thing. The Welsh is more hygienic.
I see. Now, if what you're saying is true, this has serious healthcare implications, doesn't it? For a lot of people in Wales, English is their second language. They don't have a first language. Do you think doctors should start prescribing Welsh lessons?
Well, to put it simply, yes. But more than that, yes, please.
Dr. Gogogoch, thank you very much for talking to us.
Diolch yn fawr.
I feel better already. This is Barry Welsh at the Institute for Bilingual Medicine. Iechyd da. Health again. Death rates in Wales are rising because Mrs. A is completely out of control. I'm sorry. MRSA is completely out of control, according to a report published today. But hospital managers say that the report is flawed and death rates in Wales remain exactly the same, 1 per person. Other news now. A newspaper article stating that Fishguard Town Council is taking 10 ants to court for not paying their rent was a printing error, which should have read tenants, not 10 ants, said a spokesman for the council. And finally, the luckiest pub in Wales, the 5 Horseshoes in Swansea, is to be renamed the 3 Horseshoes after 2 of the horseshoes fell off and killed the landlord. That's the news in Wales. Back to John Sargent now in London.
We're now going back to the breaking news where David Mills is at the scene. I understand there's been a rather unexpected development down there in the last few minutes. What can you tell us, David?
Nothing, John. Absolutely nothing. Nothing's happening at all, actually, John. To be honest, I got a call about an hour and a half ago to come down and cover an exclusive breaking news story. They didn't tell me what it was, didn't bother. I was at home having a nice night, actually, nice Sunday night in. Just about to tuck into some kung po chicken and some seasonal vegetables. But I had to come down here. Angela's taken a car to her sister's, so I had to get a cab, £50, forgot to get a receipt. So I won't get that money back. I'm stuck here with a belligerent crew who keep pointing and laughing at me because I don't know what's going on. Look, it's a breaking news story here, John. Throw me a bone here, will you? Give me a chance. What does it say on the strap line here? What does that say?
Well, it says you're reporting from the scene of breaking news. And I'm sorry to say this, but you seem to be cracking up.
Cracking up? I've cracked up. I'm in Maidstone. I don't know where I'm meant to be. Where am I meant to be, John?
I've no idea. You're covering the story, and it's your job that's on the line, David.
Oh, this is ridiculous. It's not the first time it's happened. Someone's having a laugh with me. I've had enough. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you, David Mills. Well, when we come back, news round the table with Jeremy Hardy, Linda Smith and Robert Bathurst. Welcome back. Now we have our chance to discuss the big issues of the day with some of the cleverest, most committed commentators in Britain. Joining me is Linda Smith, a foremost thinker in the ever-expanding world of the people whose voices must be heard. Robert Bathurst. He's an actor and visionary who's played the Prime Minister and Boris Johnson, and even his friends couldn't tell them apart. Also here, of course, is our chief political correspondent, Jeremy Hardy. Linda, what has caught your eye this week in the news?
Well, John, what's caught my eye this week in the news is this little chappie.
I thought you were going for me then, actually.
Unlikely. This little chap. Now, don't have nightmares. This isn't a real hoodie. It's a harmless replica.
Should we be frightened of hoodies? Robert, are you frightened?
I think the whole hoodie scare, I mean, everything you read or see on television is PR-led, isn't it? And I think that the whole hoodie scare is probably led by the PR people for Star Wars.
Yes, yes.
I mean, Darth Vader, he's a sort of uber hoodie, isn't he?
You see, changing people's clothes does change their behaviour. Ever since cloaks and top hats have become less fashionable, you hardly ever see young women tied to railway lines. Very hardly ever hear of a young widow tricked out of a fortune. Doesn't happen.
All right, well, now look.
Paddington Bear. There's another one. Paddington Bear. Hat and hood. Well, that's, to a trained eye, that's as good as a signed confession. He's a bogus asylum-seeking bear, sponging off this country, coming to soft-touch Britain from Peru, latched onto the Browns, eaten every scrap of marmalade in their house, not left them a scraping for their own toast. It has to stop, John.
All right, now, look, in the recent past, we could expect the Home Secretary, then David Blunkett, to tell us what's what on this issue. But he's in work and pensions now, isn't he? So, presumably, he can't say anything. Now, Robert, you have appeared very recently in David Blunkett, the musical. Now, what's all that about? What's going on?
Yes, we did a tryout of it, and it's a musical about a really tatty story in it, about the Blunkett affair and about Boris and Petronella and the rest of it. And what's good about it is it sort of dignifies these characters with a soul which they might or might not possess in real life.
Well, do us a bit of Boris, then.
He needs the wig, really.
All right, well, just give us... I mean, let's ask a serious question, see how Boris would reply, OK? Let's ask you what you think about the Conservatives' cultural policy.
He needs the...
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good.
Oh, it's brilliant.
He's a stumbling, bumbling, bicycle-riding character, yeah.
It's a calculated ploy, very much the same as somebody like Prescott, who is actually is a very slim, very articulate man.
Rather upper class.
Rather posh. Prescott is he's an interesting character. He's basically tasked with the job in the Labour Party of shafting the workers in their own accent.
Oh, right. Now, look, can we move on to the subject of Saddam Hussein's underpants? How revealing were those pictures? What do you think, Linda?
Well, to begin with, when I saw the photos, I thought, I've accidentally got a top-shelf magazine, sadists in their shreddies. It's not what you want to see in the morning, and you know, your next thought is, oh, these Calvin Klein adverts are getting less and less appealing, aren't they, really?
We still don't know whether these are genuine photographs. Given the amount of false information that's come out of Iraq, it's quite possible that these are actually counterfeit underpants. These are quite possibly fake Calvins. Although I'm always slightly baffled when somebody says, I think these are fake Calvins, because you think, well, you know, how could you counterfeit underpants? If you can see them and you put them on, then they're clearly real. I don't know if you're going to hold them up to the light and see if you can see the watermark. But the...
Robert Bathurst, Linda Smith, Jeremy Hardy, thank you for your views. Thank you very much indeed. Now, with the weekend's sport analysis, here's Paul Thorne.
So, there it was, the FA Cup final. A 0-0 victory to Arsenal, and not the feisty, incident-packed event we were expecting when the man of the match happens to be the referee. Although, there was one point during the tossing of the coin, I don't know if you noticed it, when Roy Keane tried to grab it and keep it, because when you're in the state that Manchester United are in at the moment, you need all the pound coins you can get. Yesterday's result will only deepen the feelings of bitterness on the terraces. So, has the people's game got into the hands of the wrong people? There he is, Malcolm Glazer, like an inverse Jaffa cake, really, except with the smashing orangey bit round the outside. So, why are the fans unhappy? Well, the Red Devils weren't in the red, and Glazer has just borrowed £265 million from banks secured against the club's assets. Football clubs like Manchester United make money from TV, merchandise, ticket sales, and all bought by the fans. To increase profits, they'll have to charge people more. Can you smell something? So what's the answer? One solution might be to reduce the huge wage bills of players. The experiment of giving an 18-year-old 40 grand a week to see if he goes off the rails seems to have worked. Well done. Some might say our nation's footballers are unintelligent. Not necessarily. Some of them just have trouble with the more difficult words like consent, sorry, and no, not for me, I'm driving. Most people would agree that footballers are paid too much, but decrease the wages, the players move on, and you don't win. Then comes less revenue and more debt. Or we can stop buying the tickets, the merchandise, and the TV subscriptions, thus bankrupting the company to save the club. It's a long shot, but it might just work.
That's it for tonight. Just time for some late-breaking news. Some live pictures of a giant holographic Chancellor sulking across the City of London. I'm John Sargent. It's not tonight. Good night.